Hi, everyone. I'm Drew Polinsky, Park Director for the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail. I'm here today to introduce John Moss of ORCA Consulting. His team has been conducting visitor management planning for the Fjord Trail. John will share some background on visitation management generally and a case study where ORCA has helped to ease congested conditions in a popular recreation destination and surrounding community. This is part one of a two-part series. Stay tuned for part two, where we'll go into more detail on ORCA's visitor management recommendations for the Fjord Trail. John?
Thanks, Drew, and thanks for joining us. And yes, I'm excited to talk about the visitation management process. But let me just take a moment just to introduce ourselves at ORCA. ORCA is actually an acronym, and it stands for Operations Research Consulting Associates. We have expertise in capacity and visitor flow planning and facility operations. And our focus is typically on public spaces, park spaces, for example, like the National Park Service. We work with the Smithsonian, zoos, museums, science centers, etc. Now, what is our scope of work for the Fjord Trail? Well, perhaps you had a chance to see me this past year in 2023. We started by getting an understanding of the baseline or existing conditions. So we studied current visitor use, patterns, and volumes. And then now we have projected future attendance levels. We're assisting the Fjord Trail with design development and operational planning. And then we're helping develop the Fjord Trail's visitation management plan, my favorite. So what is visitation management? It is a collection of systems, processes, policies. When you put them together, they complement each other and reach visitor management goals. And you're really therefore a toolkit, and make sure that visitor attendance doesn't outpace the ability of a park or trail to support it. So you always want to make sure that basically supply and demand are equalized, that the demand to the park is never more than the supply. Now, is visitation management only focused on visitors? No, the visitation management includes strategies to protect against, and these are things that I know you've been feeling recently, and that's the impact on parking, on trash, on crowding, on access to toilets, traffic congestion, and equally important, the impact on natural resources. Now, there is a framework for visitation management, and this is something that was developed by the Interagency Visitor Use Management Council in 2011, and it was originally developed as a best practice process for visitor use management on federally managed lands and waters. So basically, it's a means to pull all of these park operators together, info sharing on best practices, which toolkits work well for each other, and then to allow the individual venues to create their own plans using a four-phased approach. And it is cyclical, so there is an opportunity to continue to refine it. And the Fjord Trail will be incorporating the IVU MVC framework into its planning process along with other tools. So what are some examples of effective visitation management tools? Well, there are indirect techniques meant to basically influence visitor behaviors, and that would be things like information and education programs. Physical design solution would be things like signs, wayfinding through the park spaces, and trip planning and traveler information. And then there are direct techniques. Those tend to be referred to as more regulatory, and those can include things like timed entry and reservation systems, zoning, and managing types of use. As an example, at the Fjord Trail, the main path along the trail is being designed to be bike friendly, but then there are meanders and connectors that stem off of the main path. Those aren't intended to be bike friendly, and they will be assigned accordingly. Now, a successful visitation management strategy requires a few things: thoughtful planning, understanding the existing conditions. That was our focus for 2023. Understanding the desired capacity of the park space, collaboration among project partners and neighboring municipalities, such as our great friends surrounding the Fjord Trail, and a willingness and adaptability or ability to adapt to changing conditions. So I want to just take a moment to share how ORCA was recently involved to help to address visitation issues at Muir Woods in California and the adjacent community of Mill Valley. So what was the issue? As you can see from the picture, looks very familiar. And they faced these challenges with these increases in attendance starting in the early 2000s. Again, very familiar visitors arriving by car. They flooded neighborhood streets. This led to pedestrian and motorist safety issues. And then also, of course, there was a threat to natural resources. So what was the approach? So the Park Service contracted us here at ORCA to look at a couple of programs to address these issues. One was a parking reservation system, and the other was a shuttle service to offsite parking in dedicated intercept lots. And there's a few steps to implementation. So similar to what we've done here at the Fjord Trail surrounding communities, we evaluated the existing conditions, and then we had to quantify the on-site parking needs. We had to quantify the shuttle fleet requirements, and then the shuttle frequencies. How many shuttles per day? Should there be a certain number of shuttles all year round, or does that need to flex according to expected demand levels? So here's a look at how something like this will be implemented. When you go to Muir Woods now, and then actually this is when the program was first implemented in 2018. It's still the same way right now, that you're advised to make a parking reservation if you prefer to park right near the entrance to the Muir Woods Park, or to use one of the intercept lots and take the Muir Woods shuttle. The Muir Woods shuttle does also require a reservation. Great thing though, the visitors that are either parking or using the shuttle have the confidence of knowing that they're going to have a space for them when they come to visit. So what are the results? And this is the exciting thing. I got a great number of positive impact on this program. There has been a 28% increase in the portion of visitors who are taking the shuttle now instead of their own car or other transportation modes. And mind you, that's 28% less vehicles that are passing through communities such as Mill Valley to make their way to Muir Woods. And then also equally important for the natural environment, there's been a 14% reduction in the pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent per visitor to Muir Woods. Also, there's been improved conditions in the neighboring Mill Valley area. It's safer because there's less congested road conditions. There's an increase in park visitor satisfaction, 96% positive experience. And here, this is just some feedback from the Department of Interior, just speaking to those various benefits. And that's it. I'll pass it back to you, Drew.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I want to remind everyone to tune in to part 2 of this series, where John will provide more detail on visitation management recommendations for the Fjord Trail.